Hello and welcome again to my talk for this week. It's good to have you with me. And this week I was reminded of another December a long while ago. It was 8 a.m. on a chilly December morning, and I had a class at 9. But before dashing across the campus, I needed to have breakfast. I came out of my residence, ran down the hill, vaulted down the steps, rushed through the cafeteria, and glanced around the huge dining room to see who I could sit next to. In the distance, I saw Pete, John, and Tim. I walked over to join them, sat down, and Pete looked across the table very seriously and said, "John Lennon was shot and killed in New York last night." It took a minute to sink in, but certainly it is another of those moments when I know exactly where I was and what I was doing when I found out. The Beatles had provided the soundtrack to my preteen years, and although at that time it was 10 years since the band had split, they were still a massive influence upon the world music scene, and remain so today. Lennon was far from a saint, but he was tremendously charismatic and, along with others, provided the voice for working people in Britain as they emerged into the less deferential culture of the 1960s. It's easy to argue about his merits, but the reaction to his death this week, 40 years on, speaks of his stature in the cultural history of the post-World War II Western world. Perhaps one of John Lennon's most outrageous statements was that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. It caused a sensation in 1964, but I'm not sure it would be seen as quite so scandalous today. Of course, the Beatles and John Lennon were not more popular than Jesus. At this time of year, as we travel through Advent towards the celebration of the incarnation of God in Christ at Christmas, we're reminded of the eternal message of God. It is the good news that all things will be restored through God's action, that God is not far off but near too, that God both rejoices and suffers with creation. But one day all of this will pass away and the new heaven and the new earth be revealed. Over the years since that December morning 40 years ago, I have returned to the Lennon story occasionally, usually when the media reminds me of the killing outside the Dakota building in Manhattan. Why did he and the others resonate so much at that time, and why do they do so still? I think part of the answer lies in the word hope. It's what I keep returning to this year. John Lennon was a kid from relatively humble beginnings in Liverpool. The other Beatles were similar. Yet they broke the mold in several ways. They did not allow themselves to go into the type of jobs that would have been expected of them. Their music moved from traditional rock and roll into various innovative styles. They changed the way people dressed. Young men no longer wore the same clothes as their dads. They and others were seen as showing a pathway to a new confidence for ordinary people. And John, more than Paul, was the spokesman. More popular than Jesus, John? No way. But an important presence for many. Once again, thank you for listening. I trust that you'll have a good week. So God bless and stay safe.